Yesterday, John-Laffnie De Jager popped into the studio for a chat. De Jager's Matchpoint Foundation held an exciting camp last week for some of the country's brightest young tennis stars. I began by asking him how it all went down.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was our third camp for the Matchpoint Foundation. In 2015, we asked some of the national coaches to identify some kids that we got involved in the foundation. There was 11 kids. This year we sent out applications. Any kid that was ranked in the top 20 in the country, age 11 to 16, was able to apply. And at the end of the day, we selected 17 kids plus Ilse Hatting that's been part of the foundation, for a long time now. So we had our camp at Midstream. One of the criteria, or the main criteria for the foundation, is that the private coach has to be involved, because it's all about education. We want the private coach to be involved, come to the camp for at least one session, so they understand what we're trying to do. We want to share our knowledge, the former players, with the private coaches, with the parents and with the players. The former players are not always the best coaches, but you can never take away their experience and their pathway from being a junior going right where they played at the highest level. So it was great. We had 17 kids. It was really good. Robbie Koenig, Michael de Jong, Natalie Grandin, myself was there as former players. We had specialists, Gilly Hoffman, Yanni Pata. We had Nikki de Villiers and Kirsty Elliott, and Rian Kruger, explaining and doing presentation on different things, to help the parents. So for 4 days, the kids was there. Really, they practiced hard. The great thing now is now we have an open book for the coaches, the parents, and the players to contact us and ask us for all these different things that we wanted to do. The great thing about the foundation is we've linked up, with another foundation in the US, where we're going to start sending kids over. In 2015, Gavin Forbes, who's a South African, works for IMG. I approached them like I approached all the other South Africans all over the world, saying, how can we get involved and help tennis in South Africa? That was the main reason why I started the foundation. And one of the things that Gavin organized for us was unbelievable. He organized 2 international airline tickets and 3 weeks of training, for 2 players at the IMG academies. So last year, we went through the whole year. The kids didn't know about it. And at the end of the last camp in November, we decided that, we're going to select 2 players purely on their commitment, all the stuff that they had to do during the year, and the development. We don't look at the ranking. And, Victor Pata and Connor Kruger was the 2 kids that was, selected to go. And they're going to go now in September. And they got an extra bonus because, I spoke to Billie Jean and, to Katrina Adams, who's the president of the USTA. And they're going to meet Billie Jean. And they're going to watch the men's and women's finals at the US Open. So they're going to go there first, and then for 3 weeks they're going to go to the IMG academies and train. So what a great opportunity for them, and that's exactly what we're trying to do with the foundation. We're trying to create opportunities for our youngsters. We want to educate the parents and the coaches, and hopefully we'll just grow and get bigger and bigger.
It's the kind of thing that makes me feel jealous, to be perfectly honest. Something that's important, if you look at the ATP and WTA tours, most of the tournaments are either played on a hard court or a clay court, and you've got about a 4-week season for grass sort of in the middle of the year. How difficult and challenging is it for South African youngsters who mostly play on a hard court? And let's be honest, up until high school or leaving high school, that's kind of the only court that they are likely to have played on.
No, definitely. It's a disadvantage for us because a clay court is probably the best surface to develop your game on. They teach you how to move, how to be aggressive, how to use your legs. At altitude, up here, 1-2 balls, the points finish, kids, get away with it. The way we try to counter that is, the ITF brought out this new, red ball, orange ball, green ball. And the green ball is, 25%, softer than a real ball. So we train at altitude, we train with the green ball because it's a lot slower. And we feel that it can bring out the same effect. It's the closest to what happens internationally. But, clay courts is the dream for us in South Africa for people to build clay courts in South Africa for where our kids can play. Yes, a lot of people, I can say it's a waste of time to build a clay court at altitude. But my thought process is that what's the other option? You have to travel overseas, costs a lot of money. So let's try and see if we can get the best facilities in South Africa, in Pretoria, Joburg, or Cape Town, and build a clay court where the kids can travel here. Then when they go overseas and you've trained on a clay court on high altitude, the only thing that you've got to adapt to is the pace of the ball, maybe the height of the ball bounces. But the most important thing is we teach these kids to move on clay. If you can move on a clay court, that's 50% already. So it's a huge setback for us when we don't have clay courts. But I know there's a lot of people talking about trying to, trying to build clay courts. So hopefully one of these days, we'll see 1 or 2 clay courts pop up, and then the kids in South Africa can benefit from it and train properly before they leave for their trips overseas.
And clearly the kids at your foundation are benefiting from being part of it. I would imagine that it's kind of obvious that the long-term goal would to be have a major champion, men or women for that matter. But what are the short-term goals?
Short-term goals is to give these kids the edge by the fact that they can, they're in contact with the former players. The coaches can learn, the coaches can go back and share it with their academies. And it's also not just about tennis, it's about, becoming a good person. The last camp we had, because we're starting a program, Adopt a Player. So we're going to target the American people to adopt a player in South Africa. Each player had to put down a personal profile. And on the Sunday, each player had to stand up in front of the group and tell us who are they, what they stand for, how they see their tennis, how they want their peers to look at them. So it was powerful and very emotional to seeing these kids, our 11, 12-year-old kids get up and, tell us about their passion. Now it'll be easy, because if there's somebody in the state that wants to help a kid, I can say, there's 17 kids, there's their profiles, you pick one.
Which makes a big difference as well, doesn't it?
Makes a huge difference.
So in terms of development in South Africa, there are other coaches that are obviously doing things as well. Are you working in collaboration with anyone? I think of somebody like Pete Norville, for example.
Pete, we have a lot of great coaches in South Africa. Unfortunately, because they don't get exposed to international tennis, their exposure is what they see on TV and what they read on YouTube or on the news and stuff. It's a lot different when you can see it live. We spend time on a daily basis with the top players and the top coaches. And I think that is where the foundation can play a huge role, getting all the former players involved, bringing them to these camps, getting the private coaches involved, because that's how we can share what we've experienced. Otherwise, we don't have it. So how can you coach a 12, 13-year-old if he wants to play international tennis, if you've never been there, if you don't know what's happening there? So we've got to work a lot closer, and that's why, we've got a lot of the former players involved, that will come to the camp, guys that can't come to the camp, like people that are in the States, like Ellis Ferreira, Wayne, Amanda, Craig Tiley, Ilana, Billie Jean. When the kids start going overseas, that's how they can play a role. I get messages from these guys, for the, last camp, we had Goran, Cilic, all these guys, Kyrgios, Ayla Tomjanovic, who are our coach, to send messages for the kids before they play and before they have the camp. So that's how we get them involved. And a lot of the former players, Piri, Raven, those guys are all involved. Robbie Koenig, Kevin Elliott, Wesley Moody, Natalie, they were all, they've all been part of what we do, and they support it. Yes, it's not always, possible to get them all at the same time. We'd love to do that, but, as they're available, they give their input, they come, they spend their time, they put in the phone call to the parents. So it's great to have everybody involved. Like I said, there's a lot of people that do a lot of great things. We've got a lot of strong academies in the country. I think where we can add value is that we can add the value of what happens internationally and help them here locally, just to get that step ahead.
When's the next camp?
Next camp's only in November. So what happens now is, the kids on a monthly basis, they've got to do certain things. They've got to see a strength and conditioning coach at least twice. They've got to see the mental coach. They've got to see a nutritionist 4 times a year. And then these kids all do Cheryl Calder's iGym program. So it's a 6-week cycle. So they do it for 6 weeks. They have 2 weeks off, and then they carry on with it. So we try and provide these things to them to say, listen, if you want to be a professional tennis player, these are the stuff that you need to do. These are the boxes that you need to check. Yes, you need to do strength and conditioning on a daily basis. So it's expensive to pay, but at least, Kirsty Elliott, she sets up the program. She did all the physical testing. She sets up the program. And then where these kids are, the kids that's from Nepal or Cape Town, they have a fitness trainer there that they work with. They talk to Kirsty. Kirsty gives them the results. So wherever you are, the people that you're already working with, you keep working with them. You just, collaborate and just be in contact with the people that we use at the foundation. We're on the same program.
Very interesting. want to just move on a little bit because you're not only involved with the foundation, I know you're involved with World Team Tennis, former coach of the year, 2 occasions if I'm not mistaken, and also IPTL. What's on your agenda for the rest of the year?
Well, they're actually busy doing, working on the IPTL teams now. Most of the players signed a 2-year contract. So, I'm the coach of the Dubai Royals. I know, Cilic, Berdic, Goran Ivanisevic, Ana Ivanovic, Maldanovic, Nesta. Those guys will be in our team as well. The marquee players, they try and move around. Roger was in our team last year and was, it's really an honor to have him in our team. So we have first right of refusal. So, our owners have to decide now if he's going to stay or, they're going to move around. So we might get another marquee player. And that starts, at the end of November going on until the 16th of December. And then World Team Tennis, it's going to be my 17th year involved in World Team Tennis, the 10th as the coach of the Springfield Lasers. That's the 31st of July until the 13th of August, the same 2 weeks of the Olympics. It was very tough for them this year to decide when to slot it in because of the Olympics. The whole schedule has changed a little bit. So great also, for the players that's going to go to the Olympics, what an honor.
And I want to ask you this, and I mean this with the utmost respect, and I'm not being patronizing, I promise. As a coach, you got Roger Federer in your side. How do you back yourself and have the self-confidence to go to Roger and say, hey, you know what, let me offer you some advice?
The great thing is Roger makes it so easy for you. I mean, obviously as a coach, you got to back what you know, and you got to have the confidence. And it was very interesting when, when he played against Rafa in India. I mean, Rafa was really playing well. It was Roger's first match. He was a little rusty. And everybody on the bench felt that, he needed to do something different. And on the changeover, we sat down. I said, listen, Roger, do you mind if I tell you something about what I think? And he said, no, for sure. Please tell me, help me. And I shared what I thought that he needed to do, especially on Rafa's second serve, his return. And, it was amazing because the next game, the second point, he did what I asked him to do. He won the point. He looked at the bench and he went like this. So, I mean, he's a class act. Yeah. So, he makes it easy that you can feel that you can share your opinions with him.
That's great. If it wasn't for John-Laffnie De Jager, Roger Federer would not have won there. That's wonderful. I love it. You mentioned the Olympics earlier. I want to talk a little bit about that. Tennis is one of the sports at the Olympics that there are people who question it being there. Golf is another sport that is now going to be at the Olympics for the first time. We saw in this last week, Adam Scott and Louis Oosthuizen have withdrawn. They say that it clashes with their schedules. In terms of tennis at the Olympics, and those people who question it being at the Olympics, saying that it's not the pinnacle, that maybe it would be more prestigious to win a Wimbledon or a French Open or whatever. What's your take on that?
Listen, I'm very fortunate that because of tennis, I got the opportunity to go to the Olympics, experience it, on 2 occasions. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, and I'm very grateful for it. But I don't think tennis and golf should be at the Olympics. If it's not the pinnacle of your sport, you should not be there, because for tennis, you want to win a Grand Slam. Golf, I think the Masters, the slams are bigger than the Olympics. And it shows when the top guys are not playing or pulling out. So my take on it is, the sports where that's the ultimate thing to win a gold medal, those are the only sports that should be at the Olympics. But I understand the whole reasoning about it. They want to expose everything. The sevens are there for the first time. It's giving rugby guys now an opportunity to go to the Olympics. So it definitely has the positives and negatives. But from a personal point of view, I believe only the sports where it's the ultimate thing to win should compete at the Olympics.
But that doesn't mean that the tennis players or the golfers that will be there, for example, wouldn't take it seriously.
No, because I mean that's an opportunity now. Yeah. It's an opportunity to go play, to win a medal, be part of the Olympics. If you're not serious about it, you shouldn't be there. And all these guys, I mean, Roger, he's dominated men's tennis for a long time. Yes, not the last 2-3 years. He's only has a doubles gold medal. He wants to win the singles. Novak, he wants to go win the gold medal for sure. Now that they're in there, it's an opportunity to, have another trophy in your cupboard, and what a great thing to say you won a medal at the Olympics.
John-Laffnie De Jager, it's always a pleasure. Always good seeing you.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for the opportunity.